Okay, so good afternoon and welcome to the October 2nd, 2024 meeting of the Local Agency Formation Commission of Santa Clara County. Santa Clara LAFCO strongly denounces hate speech and does not tolerate disruptive behavior in our meetings. Santa Clara LAFCO prides itself on the rich diversity of our residents. We are committed to creating a culture of belonging where members of our diverse community feel safe, included, and respected. The commission meeting is considered a limited public forum, which means that LAFCO can regulate the time, place, and manner of speech to prevent our meetings from being disrupted. This protects the rights of other speakers and ensures LAFCO can accomplish its business in a reasonably efficient manner. This meeting is being held in person at 70 West Heading Street, San Jose. As a courtesy and technology permitting, members of the public may also attend by virtual teleconference. However, LAFCO cannot guarantee that the public's access to teleconferencing technology will be uninterrupted, and technical difficulties may occur from time to time. Unless required by the Brown Act, the meeting will continue despite technical difficulties for participants using the teleconferencing option. Members of the public in the chambers who wish to address the commission on an item should complete a request to speak form and place it in the designated tray at the front of the dais. Individual speakers will be called to speak in turn. Speakers are requested to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Members of the public who are attending the meeting by virtual teleconference and wish to address the commission should use the raise hand feature. Those participating by phone should dial *9. Staff will call on you by name or by the last 4 digits of the phone number and unmute each speaker in turn at the appropriate time. Written public comments will be distributed to the commission and posted to the online agenda, but will not be read out loud. Okay, with that, we're ready for agenda item number 1, which is roll call. And LAFCO clerk, can you please administer the roll call?
Yes. Chairperson Mountain.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Arenas.
Here.
Commissioner Bell. Commissioner Kamei. Here. Commissioner Kishimoto.
Here.
Commissioner Lee.
Good afternoon, President.
Commissioner Trumbull. Here. Alternate Commissioner Candelas. Alternate Commissioner Chapman. Here. Alternate Commissioner Chavez. Alternate Commissioner O'Neill.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Turner. And we do have a forum, Mr. Chair, with 6 present.
Okay, and then we have one of our alternate commissioners
And the alternate
voting
commissioner,
in place.
Commissioner Chapman, voting in place of Commissioner Bell.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right, we'll go ahead and move on then. Next up is agenda item number 2, public comments. This is the time for any member of the public to address the commission on matters not on the agenda, provided that the matter is within the commission's subject matter jurisdiction. Speakers in the chambers will be called first, followed by speakers participating virtually. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. For those in chambers, if you wish to address the commission on this item, fill out a request to speak form and place it in the tray. Okay, I have one such speaker card in front of me, and we welcome Virginia Kirley of San Mateo LAFCO. It's right in the middle, Virginia, and if you speak, it will just catch your voice.
Can y'all hear me? Oh, here, sorry. With the clock too, right? Okay, I get it. Thank you and good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Virginia Chang Corrali, and I am one of the special district representatives for San Mateo LAFCO. I'm running to be your special district representative for the coastal region on the Cal LAFCO board. I am honored to have the support of San Mateo LAFCO and be their nominee for the Cal LAFCO board. I have the privilege and honor of serving on 2 special district boards in San Mateo County, the San Mateo County Harbor Board of Commissioners and the Menlo Park Fire Protection District Board of Directors. My professional background is in financial research and investments and as a former senior director of the NASDAQ stock market. I have also been involved with advocacy work for my 2 elected boards and for nonprofits such as the California State Parks Foundation Board, on which I served for 12 years. Cal LAFCO has a wonderful opportunity to play a bigger role in advocacy work at the state level, especially when the need for collaboration is greater than ever as our local communities deal with housing, transportation, public safety, infrastructure needs, essential services, and the like. As a fire board director and a harbor board commissioner, I understand the breadth of coastal issues from wildfires, which affect the entire state of California, to maritime issues for infrastructure needs and local economic development needs for California's fishing industry, and equally important, farming and agriculture, which are big parts of the district I represent on the San Mateo County Harbor Board. The opportunity to serve, or the opportunity for Cal LAFCO to be more involved with advocacy at the state level is one of the many reasons I would like to serve on the Cal LAFCO board as the Coastal Region Special District Representative. Of course, as Cal LAFCO moves forward in this strategic direction, there must be an inclusive process that has integrity and transparency. As a former member and foreperson of the San Mateo County Civil Grand Jury, I have ensured that good government, accountability, and transparency are part of local government. I believe in an inclusive process and independent thinking that represents the coastal region and will bring these qualities to the Cal LAFCO board. Today, I just wanted to introduce myself as I'm going to all of the various coastal region counties and to introduce myself to their LAFCO commissions as well, and to let you know that I'm proud to be a candidate for the Coastal Region Special District seat on the Cal LAFCO board, and I would be grateful for your support. And you have my public comment with my contact information on there, so if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your public comment. It's great to see a representative from a neighboring LAFCO. So welcome to Santa Clara, and thank you for making your public comment.
Thank you.
Thank
It's always fun to be down here.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, we're still on agenda item 2, public comment. I'm going to do a quick scan here for any request to speak forums. Seeing none here in chambers, I'll now turn my attention to the LAFCO clerk. Thank you.
It wouldn't stop. I was hitting stop.
Thank you. And then LAFCO clerk, can you let me know if we have any requests for public comment online?
Mr. Chair, there are no speakers at this time.
Okay, very good. So we'll go ahead and close agenda item number 2 and move our way forward to agenda item 3. This is approval of the consent calendar. And at this moment, we have agenda item 4, which is approve the minutes, and agenda item 6, professional services agreement with Asura Software LLC for development of a customized database and providing ongoing licensing ancillary support services. Those are the 2 items proposed for the consent calendar. With the concurrence of my colleagues, I'd like to propose also adding agenda item 7 to the consent calendar. This is the 2023-2024 LAFCO annual report. As part of our agenda packet today, just a great job done by staff in preparing that. I would propose that also to be added to the consent calendar. Before we get to a motion, let me just do a quick scan for any public comment on the consent calendar. I do not see any request to speak form here in chambers. And Sonia, can you tell me if we have anybody online requesting to speak on the consent calendar?
Mr. Chair, there are no speakers on this item.
Okay, so at that point, a motion would be in order. Commissioner Lee, what's on your mind?
I move to approve the consent, including item number 7.
Okay, so we have a motion for 4, 6, and 7. Looking for a second from Commissioner Trumbull. Thank you. So that's a motion and a second. Without any further discussion, Sonia, can you give us a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Commissioner Arenas?
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Chapman? Commissioner Kame? Yes. Commissioner Kishimoto?
Yes.
Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Commissioner Trumbull?
Aye.
And Chairperson Melton.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, motion carries unanimously, and we'll move our way forward then to agenda item number 5. This is public hearing, comprehensive review and update of LAFCO policies. Please note that no final action will be taken on the proposed policy updates by the commission at this meeting. And first up, we'll turn it over to staff for a staff report.
Thank you, Chair. I do have a presentation to share. The California State Legislature delegated responsibility over city and special district boundaries to LAFCOs in each county and charged LAFCOs with furthering the state's policy of discouraging urban sprawl, preserving open space and farmlands, encouraging the efficient provision of services, and encouraging the orderly formation of local governmental agencies. LAFCOs are often seen as the legislature's watchdog over boundary changes and governance issues within a county. Thank you. Santa Clara LAFCO's adopted mission is to promote sustainable growth. One second. Sorry. I'll wait for the PowerPoint. Perfect. Santa Clara LAFCO's adopted mission is to promote sustainable growth and good governance in Santa Clara County by curbing sprawl, preserving farmlands and open space, promoting efficient delivery of services, facilitating opportunities for fiscal sustainability, and promoting transparency and accountability of local agencies. This reflects the state mandate for LAFCOs. The Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act, the state law that governs LAFCO, requires each LAFCO to adopt local policies and procedures. And over the years, Santa Clara LAFCO has adopted written procedures and policies as necessary. For several years now, it has been a goal and a work plan item for Santa Clara LAFCO to conduct a comprehensive review and update of its policies, which is currently underway and the topic of this agenda item. The purpose of the comprehensive review and update of the current LAFCO policies is to better enable LAFCO to meet its legislative mandate, make the policies consistent with recent changes to the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act, better document current and historic practices, and provide better guidance to affected agencies, the public, and potential applicants, and increase clarity and transparency of LAFCO's policies and expectations. Last year in October, the Commission created an ad hoc committee composed of 3 commissioners, Chair Melton, Vice Chair Arenas, and alternate Commissioner Chapman, to work with staff on the review and update of the policies prior to bringing them to the full Commission for consideration and adoption. The ad hoc committee has met several times to discuss the policies, and the proposed revisions to the current LAFCO policies are recommended by the LAFCO ad hoc committee. There are 7 policies included in Phase 1 of the review and update of LAFCO policies. These include sphere policies, urban service area policies, annexation policies, out-of-agency services policies, island annexation policies, agricultural preservation policies, and urban growth boundaries policies. And these will comprise the new chapters 2 through 8. So what's Chapter 1? It's the countywide urban development policies. And as you know, these policies were jointly adopted by LAFCO, the county, and the 15 cities between 1971 and 1972. And these policies establish jurisdictional roles, responsibilities, and regulatory systems for the timing and location of urban development. And their most central concept requires urban growth and development to be located within cities and for unincorporated lands outside cities to remain rural. These policies form an inseparable part of state law and local LAFCO policy. And you'll see a lot of references to these policies throughout other chapters. In April 2022, Santa Clara LAFCO affirmed the countywide urban development policies by resolution, and they will now form Chapter 1 of the LAFCO policies document. So the type of revisions that are being proposed to the current LAFCO policies include overall organization and reformatting of the policies. Each of the current policies has been restructured as individual numbered chapters with corresponding numbered policies and subtitles to be part of a single comprehensive document. And each chapter is reformatted to begin with an introduction that includes maybe historical context or legislative background, followed by any definitions where appropriate, and then followed by procedural policies, and then policies on evaluation criteria, sometimes separating policies for cities from those for districts where it's appropriate. The second type of change was to add references to state law. These include updating incorrect references that exist within the current policies, and then adding new references to relevant code sections as appropriate. The third type of change are some text changes involving adding new language to reflect recent changes in state law, new language to document current and long-standing Santa Clara LAFCO practices, and providing a more detailed explanation of new procedures and evaluation criteria. New language has also been added to provide, of course, key background information, historical context, et cetera, that was missing in the current policies. Lastly, a limited number of new policies have been added, and a couple of them are listed here. One is to allow a city to prepare an additional alternate vacant lands analysis for LAFCO's consideration when a city has special conditions that do not align with LAFCO's vacant land inventory methodology. And another policy has been added to specifically address agricultural worker housing needs, which can be found in the revisions to chapters 3, 5, and 7. So the nature of the proposed revisions to chapters 2, 3, 4, and 5 resulted in a complete reformatting and rewriting of current LAFCO policies. So rather than a track change version of these current policies, which would be difficult anyway to read and review, we've provided 3 documents for the public to use in review of these policies. They include the proposed policies, reference tables showing the proposed policies in relation to the current policies with an explanation for the proposed revisions, and then the corresponding current policies for comparison purposes. The last 3 chapters required only minor reformatting and text revisions, so the track change version is provided only. So the next few slides are an overview of each of the policies. Chapter 2 is the sphere of influence policies. The first section includes sphere definitions, both for special districts and for cities. Section 2 is the legislative history of sphere requirements in state law. And Section 3 is the history of development of city and special district spheres in Santa Clara County. Section 4 is purposes and roles of spheres in Santa Clara County, and Section 5 is updated policies and evaluation criteria, consistent with changes in state law and more detailed explanation of current LAFCO practices. Chapter 3 is the urban service area policies. Again, the first section is a history of adoption of the first urban service areas in Santa Clara County. Section 2 includes the definition of an urban service area, which is a unique boundary to Santa Clara County. And Section 3 is procedural policies for urban service area amendment applications. And Section 4 is updated policies and evaluation criteria for reviewing urban service area amendment applications. Section 4 also includes, as I mentioned before, 2 new policies, and I mentioned those before. The urban service area policies also include 2 exhibits. Exhibit A is Santa Clara LAFCO's methodology for preparing a vacant lands inventory, and Exhibit B is the Santa Clara LAFCO's guide for preparing a plan for services. Chapter 4 is the annexation, detachment, and reorganization policies. Again, the first section is new text which includes introduction and a summary of annexation regulations. Section 2 includes annexation policies relevant for cities, and Section 3 is annexation policies for special districts. Chapter 5 is the out-of-agency services by contract policies. Again, the first section is an introduction with definition and history of LAFCO's authority for out-of-agency services by contract applications. Section 2 is procedural policies for out-of-agency service by contract applications, including for determination of exemption from LAFCO approval. Section 3 includes policies and evaluation criteria for reviewing out-of-agency service by contract applications, and it includes the one policies related to ag worker housing that we discussed previously. Chapter 6 is island annexation policies. Again, the first section is new text with an introduction and explanation of what island means in Santa Clara County. Section 2 is new again with history of islands in Santa Clara County and why islands should be annexed to cities. Section 3 is a legislative history of the streamlined island annexation provisions in state law, and Section 4 includes some minor edits to the current island annexation policies to improve clarity and consistency. Chapter 7 is the agricultural land preservation and mitigation policies. The first section is new text with an introduction and information on LAFCO's legislative mandate regarding agricultural land preservation. Sections 2 through 7 are really renumbered and reformatted with a couple of text changes. The first one relates to Santa Clara LAFCO's policy preference to avoid and or minimize potential impacts to farmlands rather than to mitigate for loss of farmlands. And the second one, again, is a reference to the special consideration for ag worker housing within the urban service area and the out-of-agency proposals policies. Chapter 8 is the urban growth boundaries policies. The first section, again, is new introduction to urban growth boundaries in Santa Clara County, and then there are some minor edits to provide better clarity and consistency to the current policies. We added new text to support, to state that LAFCO supports adoption of urban growth boundaries consistent with LAFCO goals, and to clarify that the urban service area remains the definitive LAFCO adopted planning boundary, indicating where an area would be annexed and provided with services. So that's, those are the policies. Moving on to process, LAFCO staff provided a notice of availability and notice of public hearing on August 30th, announcing the availability of the policies for public review and comment. LAFCO staff has also prepared a web page for the comprehensive review and update of LAFCO policies with information on the policies and other associated documents and resources. The notice of availability and the notice of public hearing was also published in local newspapers. Staff is also outreach to various organizations and associations within Santa Clara County, including the Santa Clara County Association of Planning Officials, quarterly meeting of the Special Districts Association, as well as a special meeting of the Special Districts Association, to staff at the City of San Jose, the County of Santa Clara, and to the Open Space Authority, in addition to a number of one-on-one meetings with other organizations and individuals. In terms of public participation, as you know, we are accepting comments through 5 p.m. today. Comments received by 5 p.m. on September 25th are included in the LAFCO agenda packet, and then a supplemental packet was provided to the Commission with a couple of additional letters that we received yesterday. The purpose of this meeting is to receive public input and receive comments. No final action will be taken on the policies at this meeting. We will be taking comments from the public as well as from the Commission, and noting these down for consideration as we move forward through the ad hoc committee process. In terms of next steps, staff will compile all the comments and work closely with the ad hoc committee to respond to the comments and propose revisions to policies to address comments as necessary. And it's anticipated that we will be able to publish the responses and the policy revisions for additional public review and comment by early November. And LAFCO will hold a second public hearing on December 4th for the Commission to consider and adopt the proposed updates to the policies. Before I conclude this presentation, I have several people to thank. A big thank you to Bill Shue, LAFCO's consultant and former principal planner at the County of Santa Clara, for his invaluable assistance in helping staff draft these policies. His expertise, knowledge, and research were instrumental in completing this phase of the project. I also want to thank members of our ad hoc committee, Chair Melton, Vice Chair Arenas, and alternate Commissioner Chapman, for dedicating their time, diving deep into the LAFCO policies, and providing valuable insights and direction to staff. I'd like to thank all the local agencies, organizations, and members of the public who took the time to engage with us and offer feedback. Your input is greatly appreciated at LAFCO. Finally, thank you to the Commission for prioritizing this project and allowing staff the opportunity to focus on it. That's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for that staff report. Really appreciate it. Here's, I'll mention to my colleagues up here on the dais, what I would like to do first is to see if the LAFCO commissioners have any brief, shall I say, mechanical questions about the process. And then I envision that we'll go through our public comment, folks in chambers here, folks calling in on Zoom, hear what they have to say. And then we're going to bring it back the way I see it to the commission for your comments. Anything that you've seen that you have questions about or that you want to influence or recommend going the same direction or going a different direction. So in a minute, we'll have an opportunity for the commissioner to make your comments on the draft. So first, let me check in if everybody agrees for any sort of mechanical questions about the process from the commission to staff. And Commissioner Chapman, I see you have your light turned on.
No, I just want to thank the chair, and I'm looking forward to hearing the public comment.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll join in. I just wanted to say I really appreciate the work of our professional staff on this, and to Vice Chair Arenas and alternate Commissioner Chapman. It's been a great voyage on the subcommittee here to get to where we are at this point, so I really appreciate that. I'm doing a scan. I see Supervisor Lee, you have your light turned on? Oh, got it? I did not see his light turned on. So then I'm going to go ahead and move into public comment. And at this moment, I have one request to speak form here, and that is from Alice Kaufman of Green Foothills. Alice, welcome to Santa Clara LAFCO. We look forward to hearing your thoughts.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Melton and Commissioners. My name is Alice Kaufman. I am the Policy and Advocacy Director with Green Foothills. And we submitted a joint letter yesterday, which is in your supplemental packet, together with 4 other environmental organizations. And as detailed in our letter, we support these proposed revisions. We have some minor comments. I think the one I'm going to focus on today in these oral comments is the issue of the new policies that make it easier to build farm worker housing. We absolutely support making it easier to build farm worker housing. It's very important. Farm workers are essential to having farmland, having an agricultural economy in our county. But we do believe that the policies need to be strengthened a little bit just to ensure that housing that is built for farm workers remains affordable to and occupied by farm workers into the future. As I won't get into all the details, but there are, it's in our letter, and there already are 2 criteria in the draft revisions that we just believe need to be made mandatory rather than simply criteria to be considered. We think that if these criteria are not, if one of these 2 criteria, I should say, are not in place, then we should not have the exception to the urban service area or the out-of-agency service contracts. And basically those are about having legal restrictions in place to make sure that housing that's built for farm workers stays occupied by farm workers, whether it's through deed restrictions or whether it's through making sure that the housing project is owned and operated by an affordable housing nonprofit or by a public agency. I just want to say that what we're concerned about here is that there is a danger in making it easier to extend urban services for ag worker housing, because once those services have been extended, it really seems like there's nothing to prevent that ag worker housing from being essentially converted to market rate housing. And I just want to say that this is not just a theoretical danger. Right now, there are about 30 separate builder's remedy development proposals totaling more than 6,000 residences in the unincorporated county on primarily on agricultural land, mostly on the outskirts of Morgan Hill and Gilroy. This includes about 3,000 residences that would be located in a FEMA floodplain. In fact, it's an area that flooded in January 2023, just south of Gilroy. Part of Highway 101 was underwater. And as I said, nearly all of these projects would be on prime farmland, and none of them seem to have water or sewer service. And none of them are for farm worker housing, if it comes to that. So you can see that developers are seizing the opportunity of the builder's remedy to build as many market rate units as they can, stand to make enormous amounts of money, and we're just concerned that if we extend urban services with the best of intentions for farm worker housing, we just want to make sure that there's guardrails in place to make sure these units remain farm worker housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comment. Okay, I do not have any other requests to speak form here in chambers. I'm just doing a quick scan and see nobody coming forward. So Sonia, I'm gonna turn my attention to you. Do we have anybody online requesting to speak on this agenda item?
Yes, Mr. Chair, there is one speaker on this item. The first speaker, his name is Peter Van Dyke of Loma Prieta. And let's see. And I will unmute you. Well, actually, we have two speakers now, but I'll start with Mr. Peter Van Dyke. Okay. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good afternoon, Commission members. And, I have to agree with Alice on the farm worker housing. Not only does it have to be affordable for farm workers, it has to be affordable for the farm owners to build and construct. And there's a lot of hoops that we'll have to jump through to build that construction. And I'm not sure how LAFCO can help in that realm of helping farmers build inexpensive housing for farm workers. Most farmers aren't going to charge their workers exorbitant rents because they need them for the labor. So I think that when it comes to private ownership of farm labor housing, I don't think the cost for the farm work is going to be exorbitant. Another thing that Alice mentioned that also current concerns me as a member of the Board of Directors of the Land Trust of Santa Clara Valley is that the builder's remedy and the proposed development of thousands of homes in the unincorporated areas without services. Some of these proposals will be self-contained as far as having their own water supply and their own sewer treatment systems. Now that can get kind of dicey when it comes to keeping the aquifer safe and clean from contamination. I had a meeting yesterday with my land trust board at county planning with Michael Meehan and the head of the ag planning. I think her name's Jacqueline, I can't remember. And at this point, those are proposals. Unfortunately, the county is under a lot of pressure from the state and is sort of being forced to approve some of these proposals based on the fact that the state has threatened to hold back funding for other programs if they don't follow the guidelines and the mandates for housing. That's something that I think LAFCO should really take a close look at, because there's only about 5 or 10% of ag land left in Santa Clara County, and it's pretty much all of it's in South County and the ranges surrounding there. And it's of paramount importance that we protect that land, not only for conservation, food production. It's also going to be important for ecology and habitat protection, which we deal with a lot at the Resource District. And I'll take your comments offline. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And the next speaker is Stephanie Moreno. You have 3 minutes to speak. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. Your time will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you. As Executive Director for the North Santa Clara RCD, I appreciate the opportunity to provide comments today on the draft policies. Our comments focus specifically on Chapter 5, Out-of-Agency Service by Contract Policy, Section 5.2.4. We respectfully disagree with LAFCO's interpretation that it alone holds the authority to determine whether a proposed out-of-agency service by contract qualifies for exemption under Government Code 56133E. The law explicitly states, quote unquote, this section does not apply to any of the following, and enumerates 6 specific circumstances where pre-approval from LAFCO is not mandated. It does not confer upon LAFCO the authority to make such determinations. This issue was originally framed by Cal LAFCO and some individual LAFCOs as one of interpretation, acknowledging that it would need to be resolved by a legislative amendment. During the 2021 legislative session, Cal LAFCO sought to amend 56133E to add, quote unquote, as determined by the commission or executive officer, but the bill did not progress. And in July 2024, the Cal LAFCO Board of Directors voted to discontinue efforts to amend 56133 related to exemption language, citing it as a burden due to opposition from certain stakeholder organizations. In lieu of securing a legislative amendment, a number of county LAFCOs have now decided to act unilaterally to adopt local policies such as the one being considered today, to assert LAFCO's authority to require cities and special districts to seek pre-approval for exemption status. Although we recognize the desire for commissioners to be informed about services rendered outside jurisdictional boundaries to ensure compliance with the mission, we are concerned your reliance on local interpretation of state law, particularly one that has been expressly disputed, may create potential liability. As a constructive alternative, we propose that rather than requiring pre-approval for OASC agreements, the Commission establish a policy that mandates cities and special districts to notify LAFCO of OASC agreements within 30 days of execution, similar to the current requirements for entities entering into joint powers agreements. This approach would empower the commissioners to address any issues of noncompliance without imposing undue burdens on compliant entities. We appreciate the opportunity to present these proposed modifications today that are intended to align LAFCO's goal with special district rights pursuant to Government Code 56133. We respectfully encourage you to consider this modified language in lieu of the policy language currently proposed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then Sonia, I'll turn my attention back to you to see if we have any other speakers online.
There are no more speakers, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so with that.
Actually, we just got one, sorry. Okay, so we do have one more speaker. Let's see. It's Greenbelt. And
Yes.
Okay, after I unmute you, please accept the mute. You'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you so much, and apologies, I thought my hand was raised earlier. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Jordan Grimes. I am the State and Regional Resilience Manager for Greenbelt Alliance. We were a signatory to the letter Alice mentioned earlier and speak today to advance those comments. As was mentioned, we know there is an enormous appetite for market rate sprawl development in the county based off of the builder's remedy applications that we have seen over the past months, where you have thousands upon thousands of new units being proposed in unincorporated exurban areas. Greenbelt Alliance strongly believes that we absolutely do need all types of new housing in the county, including market rate housing, but we need to do and build in a sustainable way, both environmentally and financially. And new growth should be focused in existing cities and suburbs. At the same time, we are also strong supporters and proponents of farm worker housing, of which we know there is an extreme shortage, leading to many of our most vulnerable community members across the region living in horrendous conditions. To that end, and to ensure that the housing that we are able to produce in these areas is affordable, we Second, the comments made by our friends at Green Foothills around requiring deed restrictions to ensure affordability, or a requirement for the housing to be built by nonprofit developers or community builders. We know there is this extreme need for low-income farm worker housing. We just want to make sure the housing gets exactly where it needs to go for the people who need it. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. And then Sonia, I'll turn my attention back to you to see if we have any other hands raised online.
No, there are no more speakers, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing with many thanks to our speakers in person and also on Zoom. And we're going to bring it back to the LAFCO. Now, this will be the opportunity for any comments on where we are with the draft policies. Looking forward to hearing any thoughts. Just as a reminder, the subcommittee will be reconvening later this month to take into account not only what we're about to hear from the LAFCO board, but all of our public comment, both written and coming in today. And then we'll be coming back to the full LAFCO at our December meeting with a recommended set of policies. So I'm just going to take it from the far end, looking forward to hearing, and Commissioner Trumbull, you're up first.
Thank you. I've had a couple of conversations this year with Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas about the fact that California has 1.2 million people who are drinking unsafe water. These are almost entirely, probably 1 million, farm worker housing. And he assured me that he was supporting Senator Laird's bill, which the governor signed, which requires all water districts with less than 330,000 people to meet safe drinking water standards. In the past, governors have vetoed bills like that because they provided a funding source. So clearly that's going to be a problem for people and how to meet this without necessary funding. I would like staff and the committee to assess whether or not something should be said in these policies about that issue.
Okay. Thank you. And then next up, we'll hear from Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Chair. First, I want to thank staff for coming forward with these timely and important revisions as proposed. It's certainly critical that we ensure our policies and regulations are streamlined and effective, and that staff has done this great job setting LAFCO up for success with the proposed changes here. Also like to take a moment to recognize the various speakers and alliances we have, like Greenbelt Alliance, Green Foothills, the Bird Alliance, Sierra Club Loma, Prairie Chapter, and the Keep Coyote Creek Beautiful for offering their input and expertise on this issue. I hope staff would take those feedback into account as we look for ways to improve our policies, particularly in regards to farm worker housing. Our farm workers are often an unseen and underappreciated pillar of our Santa Clara County's economy, and they have been hit particularly hard by our housing affordability crisis throughout. And this review process offers an opportunity to put policies in place that will protect our farm workers and keep our farm worker housing more affordable. We should ensure that we're taking advantage of the opportunity and working in partnership with our community organization, like those that have spoken during the public comment today. I also know staff is committed to conducting a thorough process that brings in input from the community at all different stages. And I want to finish by again thanking them for the good work they have been doing on these revisions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. And then next up is Commissioner Kishimoto.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to note that, myself and Commissioner Bell, who's not here, are here helping to speak for the special districts, of course. And then we were ably represented on the subcommittee by Commissioner Chapman. So I want to give my thanks to Helen, especially for that. I'm going to have quite a few comments.
Please.
Is that okay? Let me know if you want to move on to and come back
And then
if I take up too much time.
I'll just jump in and say, there's no running clock. Please take whatever time
Sure,
you need.
sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Well, first I wanted to note that I really did appreciate the extra history that was written, so that's much appreciated. And let's see, I think I have like 3 major comments, and maybe I'll start with one question, which is, so we heard about the up to 6,000 units and the builder's remedy, and could I ask how they fit into these policies? I mean, I haven't read the builder's remedy legislation. Are they exempt from LAFCO or not?
So as you know, LAFCO has no land use authority, and LAFCO is not involved in permitting the housing. However, many of these builders' remedy are in the unincorporated area of Santa Clara County that lacks services such as water and sewer. And in order for them to build those homes, they require to connect to city or district sewer service, and that's when LAFCO could be involved, where the agency that wants to extend services to these development proposals would need to seek LAFCO approval before doing so. Or the other option is for those development proposals to seek annexation into a nearby city and then develop within the city after annexation. Many of these builders' remedy proposals are not within the current urban service area for cities, which means they'd have to first get an urban service area amendment from LAFCO and apply to LAFCO for that. So that's the connection.
I see. Okay, that's good to know. Let's see. So I'm going to start just by the topic that's been raised a couple times about the ag worker housing, and I just wanted to say that I agree with the comments that were raised in the letter from the environmental groups, and just want to thank them for bringing those forward. As my fellow commissioners have probably seen, those clauses which talk about how to enforce keeping them affordable are just under this heading of that we shall consider that, and I do strongly believe that it should be strengthened, and so if they could be broken out and made mandatory, and I would love to hear from the rest of the commissioners about that too. But I think that is a very, very important thing to do. So let me see if there's anything else about that. And I did also like their suggestion that we look at the Gail Pellerin legislation. I thought that was helpful. And then maybe one question for the committee to think about is: do we need to consider adding any language about, in the contingency that it is no longer affordable or it's no longer ag worker? Do we want to require the infrastructure to be capped and closed or taken out, or what are we going to do in that case? Because I'm sure that. So that's you don't have to answer that question, but maybe love to see that considered. Let me see. I have as you know, since I represent the special districts, I also wanted to thank Nalima for coming to a special district meeting that did answer some questions. But we did hear from 2 of the RCDs, the Resource Conservation Districts, which are members of the special district, and I did want to note that. So this question of whether is it an increase in our power to require touching base with the district about whether they're exempt or not? And when I looked into it, I was actually surprised to see that it was a topic of great interest statewide. And there had been a huge amount of discussion about it in the other LAFCOs and at Cal LAFCO. Stephanie is correct. I guess they have decided not to move it forward yet as statewide legislation to clarify, but they're leaving it to the individual LAFCOs. And Nilima may wish to comment, but my understanding is quite a few LAFCOs have adopted language, and we could probably learn from some of their language. But so I thought it would be good for my fellow commissioners to be aware of that. After I looked at it look at that, and I come down on the conclusion that it does make sense to allow requiring some kind of informal vetting with LAFCO to see if they're exempt. But I do think that process needs to be clarified. So if the subcommittee could talk about either setting up possibly it could be addendum that clarifies the procedures, and then part of that process. Okay, so some of the questions are, how informal is it? What information should they submit? Is it just a phone call, or do they submit something? And then is it automatically any inquiry about this? Does it come to LAFCO? Because there's pros and cons to that, right? One is, of course, transparency is great, but some people might not want their idea to become public information because it's very exploratory. So is there room for exploratory discussion without it being reported to LAFCO, which means that it'll automatically become public information? So those are some of the issues I hope the subcommittee can take a look at. So I guess just to reiterate, I think I come down on the side of clarifying that LAFCO should be the one to decide, but we need a lot of clarification on the procedures. Okay, and then my last one has to do with, again, mostly with special districts, and this has to do with the zero SOI issue, which I don't know, well, some of you have been on this before. So, for example, one of our fire districts has gotten a zero SOI and then when it comes down, we go through this whole process on the board, and usually we look at the facts, we look at if there's any more greater budget for a special district, that's what the example I have in mind is like the Saratoga Fire District. They don't spend that much more than the other, but so my question is, and then I'm looking at there's another policy that's called about overlapping SOIs. And it says spheres of influence for cities and special districts may overlap when both agencies expect to provide different services to the area. And so my question is, possibly instead of automatically designating a special district a zero SOI because it's coterminous, could we send them for negotiation to see if we could have, if all parties agree to a overlapping SOI agreement? Could we provide that as an alternative? So I can send some wording to the subcommittee if you want. It would be something like, alternatively, the special district may enter an agreement with a city or district to share overlapping responsibilities. But any questions on that?
I appreciate your comments, and I especially like your suggestion of maybe putting into writing whatever it is you think would be most helpful, and
Okay.
then send that over to Neelima, and that will absolutely find its way to the subcommittee, and we can think that through. I'll just also put out there, the sooner that you could do that, the sooner Neelima can forward it to the subcommittee, so
Okay.
we can
Okay, very good.
imprint it on our minds and start digesting it before the subcommittee meeting.
All right, I'll definitely send it before it's scheduled.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else, Commissioner?
Yeah, I think that should be it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
And then Commissioner Kamei.
Thank you so much. I want to thank the subcommittee for all their work. You know, this is quite a bit of work, and I think that, you've gotten to a place where, the reforms and to clarify, this is going to really clarify a number of LAFCO policies. I think it clearly states LAFCO's intentions to push annexation to whole islands of unincorporated lands and to encourage annexation of existing areas in the urban service area before attaching new ones. So I think that, it's really clearer to me. And I really like the matrix of proposed changes. I don't know, maybe I like tables and things like that, spreadsheets, but it really clarifies the terms and there's less ambiguity. At least that's what I found. So I think that when policies are established, you can kind of like see it laid out. I will say that I too am, and I don't know if the word was used earlier, but the issue of the builder's remedies, I'm concerned because at least in Santa Clara County, there are agreements where development happens in the cities and not in the unincorporated areas. So, I'm watching it very carefully. I mean, obviously, if someone moves forward with a development project, it does have to come to LAFCO because LAFCO has to put it into the city services. But what are you going to do if a city says no? Right? I mean, are they going to be sort of what are they going to do about sewer and water, right? What are they going to do about services? I mean, it becomes a very, very difficult situation. So this whole builder's remedies, while I understand the need for more housing, for greater density, more affordable housing, which, I believe in, it certainly has caused more complications. And given that the county does not have a housing element yet approved, it's a big problem. And I think I'm watching it closely, and I know that, it's sort of tangentially related to the update of the policies, but I think it opens up another can of worms of, what's going to happen as these things move through. And so I think we have to be, have a careful watch of that. But overall, I really thought it was great, and I just really appreciate that the subcommittee did such good work and that we're going to be able to have greater clarity. And I think that with, further refinement and comments from the commission, we're able to get to a better place. So thank you for everyone working on it.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. Next up is Commissioner Chapman.
Thank you, Chair. It was a pleasure working with staff and working with you and Vice Chair Arenas on this. It was a lot of work. I learned a lot in the process. And just wanted to share also my appreciation for staff and, engaging with us over several months. We've been doing this for a while now. 1 year, oh my goodness. Never jump on a subcommittee and think it's fast work. Anyway, but the in-depth conversations that we've had and some of the dialogues that we've had and being able to take the input now from my colleagues on LAFCO, I think is important. I'm taking all these notes and making sure that we have a good dialogue at the end of the month. I did want to highlight, again, thank you, Commissioner Kishimoto, for bringing that up, that the Special District Association had this come forward to them at their last meeting. We did have a special meeting, and thank you to staff for listening to some of the concerns that were raised, because I thought, it would be important for them to have a little bit deeper dive into some of that. So I am interested to see how we can address the out-of-agency service contract concerns that they're raising. I also want to thank Green Foothills and Greenbelt Alliance and others for sending in their letter. I do agree with your recommendations and would like to see those included, especially how we align the newly signed law by the governor on farm worker housing, because it's important that we don't lose that housing. We don't want it shifted to another type of use. We want to make sure that the farm workers are housed safe and that they have something that's there for them. And thank you to Peter to raising about how you can make it easier for landowners then to put it on their property, encourage farming on site, and encourage workers to be aligned with that. I think, let's see, trying to go through everything. Commissioner Trumbull, we didn't really discuss safe drinking water, but thank you for bringing that up. I mean, I think that's important. I think there was also noted in the environmental letter too about looking at geological concerns, which that might be something we could take under advisement. And I think, and again, the importance of the builder's remedy, the city of San Jose is facing that challenge now. So it is something that we have to look forward to. I think that's all my comments, and I'm just appreciative of the process. I'm, again, taking all the information in. I look forward to continued dialogue.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Before we get to Vice Chair Arenas, alternate Commissioner O'Neill, I'll be looking over in your direction in a couple of minutes to see if you have any thoughts or comments. And next up is Vice Chair Arenas.
Thank you. First of all, I do want to thank my fellow ad hoc committee colleagues for all the work that you both have done and your leadership, Ross. I know that this is a lot of work, and we all initiated this work some time ago because we saw that some of the decisions that we were making as a commissioner were based on historical type of decisions, right? And we hadn't written some of these policies down, and so now we have them in front of us, and boy, there's a lot to go through. And so I just wanted to take a moment to review some of those, but before I do, I also want to thank our speakers for coming in. I appreciate the points you're all making, and Commissioner Trumbull, I really appreciate your comment about fresh water. I think this is something when we talk about farm worker housing, it's so easy just to say it's a roof over somebody's head, but really it's access to clean water. It's access to a bathroom that is dignant of somebody living in this community and providing a service to all of us. And so there isn't any question in my mind that human beings should always be prioritized first and foremost above everybody else, everything else, any kind of policy. And so that's the other reason why I pursued the AB 3035 that actually was born out of our office, worked on with county council, and then guided by not only Speaker Rivas, but of course the member who carried it, which is Gail Pellerin, which I'm absolutely grateful for. It didn't come without any challenges, as you all could imagine. But because now that has been signed by the governor, and I have a huge smile on my face around that, now we have to make sure that the policies that we're all agreeing to today don't, and I'm going to turn this off because I can't continue to see myself at the same time that I'm talking. So I think we just have to make sure that what we've achieved statewide, which is a densification of farm worker housing up to 150 units, which is going to hopefully appeal to some of our affordable housing developers, actually have a path to completion, right? Because our own policies could get in the way. And to your point, Commissioner Kishimoto, the out of service contract policy, out of agency service contract policy is something that I actually am going to talk about in just a minute, but I just wanted to take us back a little bit in terms of historically, why is it that we are talking about this? And that's, we had a difficult decision to make, and we kind of split the baby on this for the city of Gilroy. And I appreciate the letters that came in from them and from the city of Morgan Hill to take the time to actually give us their take on some of those items, whether we agree with those viewpoints or not. I think it's important to continue to have dialogue, and so we split the baby on one of those proposals, and all because we didn't really have a definition of underutilized lands, because underutilized doesn't equate to vacant lands, right? We also had a difference, at least I saw it, a difference of opinion in the 5-year supply definition, and there was some other definitions that I think that we are kind of wrangling down. So to me, it's really important to hear from you very in a detailed manner what your thoughts are on some of these areas. And so I'm going to start with what Commissioner Kishimoto, you talked about in terms of the out-of-agency contract for services. This particular policy is really important for in general, but I'm going to see it from the eyes that has just seen this AB 3035 approved last week, and thinking about pathways to completion. This actually could be something that could deter us, because for agricultural housing, it is an opportunity to have a provision or extended of new or extended services, so that the housing can actually be possible, right? But the exemptions are determined by LAFCO. Now, I had this conversation within the ad hoc committee, and I'm really interested in hearing the rest of the commission what they have to say, because the state law doesn't give our LAFCOs, our local LAFCOs, that determination of exemption. And so we have to figure out whether we are going to sidestep the state law and make our own policies, which I don't think that we should, or to work within what the state law tells us to do, which is that policy that was quoted earlier, the 5.2.4. This is the policy that I'm referring to, the out-of-agency service by contract policy, for those of you who are following us at home. And so this is really should be a mechanism to review a proposed exemption to confirm whether that proposal is exempt, not necessarily for us to make that determination. And I know that I submitted a different definition than our LAFCO staff did, because I want to make sure, one, we are within what the state law is allowing us to do as a LAFCO body, and two, because I think it's really important for us, at least I know that you all agreed with me when I added the farm worker housing work item onto our work plan. And so that's part of our work plan. And if it's part of our work plan, it's part of our priority. If it's part of our priority, then let's find a path forward and not create any issues that will hinder the completion of that. So I'm going to end my comments there, because I do have also an item to pick on in terms of the 5-year supply and the urban service area. But for the moment, I just love to hear the feedback, and maybe what our LAFCO staff could do is help I don't know if you already have this set, but if you could show us what the state code tells us our role to be and what we are determining our role to be. Oh, through the chair, please.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. Did you want to keep going, Vice Chair, or?
Oh, sure. I can keep going. So the other piece is, thank you. I know that maybe it's going to take a moment to be able to secure that. The other piece that I actually would like to have a bit of an conversation around is under the urban service area, this underutilized versus vacant. And underutilized does not mean vacant, right? It doesn't equate to that. And simply because a developer didn't go up to the maximum doesn't mean that it's underutilized. That is the most that they could make in terms of the use for that particular area. If they could build more, they would have, I'm sure, right? They would have built more. So at this point, I know that there's maybe a suggestion in terms of a minimum requirement. I know that's one of the letters that came in. I thought that was pretty reasonable. So that we could actually see what the difference would be between underutilized versus vacant. And for us to really have a solid inventory of what those lands are in order to make a determination as a commission. All right, and then the 5-year supply, that definition, or the genesis of that definition from what we talked about in ad hoc committee was based on the state definition, but that is not so because it is slightly different. And there is no 5-year supply. There is a 5-year reference, supply reference, but it is not to determine how much land or how much development, land in development you should have available as a city in order to determine whether you're able to build or not build. So those are the 3 areas: the out-of-agency contract for service, and that determination of exemption, whether we have that role or not, the urban service area, that underutilized versus vacant, and I would like for us to continue to have a more explicit version of what underutilized is, and then, of course, the 5-year supply, the state definition being slightly different than LAFCO's. And for us to really have that conversation about how does that get determined. And I think, some of you have been serving on this board for quite some time. Of course, our LAFCO staff is a long-term, I was going to say public servants, but really, I mean, you are public servants in this respect, that you are, you're shepherding the open land and spaces and how it's all being built, and so I consider that as definitely a public servant. And so I put this all out because these are concerns that I had when we initially started talking about putting policies into place, and I continue to have, those little pebble in my shoe, and so I wanted to share it with the rest of you, not because I want a pebble in your shoes, but I wanted to hear from you. How do we come to head on this? How do we determine where we stand? Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Vice Chair, for your comments. And I'm going to look in the direction of our alternate commissioners to see if we have any lights turned on. Seeing none, I'll jump in with some comments here. I also wanted to again express my appreciation for professional staff and our consultant and the LAFCO subcommittee. You know, we kicked off this project, as has been noted, about a year ago, and there was kind of a fork in the road, right? There was door number one and door number two. Door number one was, let's go ahead and work on the policies. That's what we're doing right now, and we've been talking about this for quite some time. And door number two would be begin a service review, right? We have an upcoming service review for water and sewer water. That's the next big service review. And so we intentionally pushed out the service review project to focus on this. So choices have been made, and I'm glad where we are right now, and just wanted to mention that. Here are some thoughts that I have. I really appreciate the opportunity to modernize and bring up to par LAFCO's policies, because there are going to be potentially a couple of major things coming to Santa Clara LAFCO in 2025 or 2026 that have already been discussed. So number one is farm worker housing, and I'll talk about that a little bit. And number two is going to be builder's remedy in unincorporated Santa Clara County. So the way I look at it is the work that we're doing right now braces us for what appears to be coming ashore to Santa Clara LAFCO, or maybe it won't come ashore. You know, who knows what the future will hold on all of this. So let me talk about farm worker housing for a second. And I sent a message to the vice chair maybe a day or two ago when I saw that AB 3035 from Assemblymember Pellerin had made it across the finish line. It was signed by the governor. I said, congratulations, because this is important. And you can feel here on Santa Clara LAFCO that there's a lot of support and mojo for just the concept of farm worker housing, all probably brought to light in the tragic events of Half Moon Bay that just shows the squalor, unhabitable, unacceptable situation. So something needs to be done, and recognizing not only the success of AB 3035, but here at the county level, right, the referral that has been made that Sylvia Gallegos is working on, you know, that will, I presume, will bear some fruit in its due course as a separate process that doesn't involve Santa Clara LAFCO, but is also moving forward. So conceptually, I just have a vision where Santa Clara LAFCO is ready for farm worker housing, however that may unfold. And it may come that the county of Santa Clara, as Sylvia Gallegos concludes her work, she identifies some sites that are in one of our 15 cities, most likely going to be either Gilroy or Morgan Hill or South San Jose or maybe Los Gatos, I don't know. Or it's not going to be in one of the 15 cities, and therefore would activate either our urban service area policies or our out-of-agency service extension policies. And this is what I mean by modernizing to brace for what appears to be a good thing coming. So I just wanted to say that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about with regards to builder's remedy, you know, as my city, the city of Sunnyvale, was moving towards the finish line on our housing element with Sacramento, we had a couple of builder's remedy projects pop into existence. It is what it is, but I also just wanted to thank Alice Kaufman of Green Foothills, because she was, you know, on page one of the local newspaper. This may have been 9 months ago, and when I saw that about builder's remedy in unincorporated county, I thought to myself, oh yeah, we need to start paying attention to this, because that's potentially another LAFCO thing, and again, where we want to have modern policies. And the way I look at it for builder's remedy projects is only one of the 15 cities can bring forth applications for either urban service area amendments, right, or for out-of-agency service extensions, right? So I know staff will correct me if I'm misremembering anything, but those can only come from the 15 cities. So if there's a builder's remedy, something or other that's adjacent to one of our 15 cities, and somehow that city is convinced to bring forward an application to LAFCO, the way I look at it is LAFCO absolutely will have its hands on anything that is builder's remedy-ish in unincorporated Santa Clara County. All of this being a very long-winded way, colleagues, of saying modernized policies that clearly spell out who needs to do what and what all of the rules are extremely important for these topics that are most likely coming our way. So thank you for letting me say all of that. I very much enjoyed a number of meetings that we had with the subcommittee, either in person, on Zoom. A lot of hard work was done and gotten across the finish line. And I've been thinking about a possible way to move forward on what I just heard the vice chair saying. And Sylvia, let me just propose this here. I have a vision that the subcommittee, as has been mentioned, later this month will be tackling all of the public comment that has come in and all of the commissioner comments. And I really appreciate the vice chair having brought up the 3 topics that she mentioned. What I imagine I would propose at the next subcommittee meeting is, let's get this written up by our professional staff, and so that's going to be Nilima and Mala. Let's put that in the staff report as sort of the 3 remaining topics of this whole policy service review to bring back to the full LAFCO at our December meeting. And that may very well have a recommendation from the subcommittee, but one thing I just want to assure the full LAFCO is for these topics, you're going to get a professional, of course, and complete write-up from staff about the pros and the cons, and here's how BBK views it, and here's how professional staff views it. And then let's just tackle those 1 and 2 and 3 at the December meeting. That's sort of what I have on my mind with regards to the 3 topics: out of agency service extensions, this 56133 determination of exemption, and then very importantly for urban service areas, the concept of 5-year supply, underutilized, and the terminology of vacant. So thank you for listening, colleagues. That's what I would propose. I'm going to start scanning to see if we have any other commissioner lights turned on or staff to see if anybody wants to jump in. Commissioner Kishimoto, what's on your mind?
Working, yes, okay. I agree with those 3 topics, but could the committee also consider the zero SOI issue? Is what that I will write up for you. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So if I can jump back in, Commissioner Kishimoto, that would be my pledge, is to keep it, how do I say this, right? Open on the most important identified topics, or any identified topics, to provide that opportunity for the commission itself to make the final decision in December.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. I'll give it a second here to see if there are any other comments from the LAFCO on this agenda item. That will also give me a second to get my bearings on my notes here. And Vice Chair.
Thank you. The last item that I wanted to talk a little bit about is because we are on the move now with farm worker housing, with this specific bill. There's a lot of other work that's being done on our farm worker housing, just, for your information, commissioners. We have a work plan that has a resource center that's going to be available. There's surveys that were being done this summer in different languages, because as we know, there's different farm workers in terms of language capacity out in our district, and of course streamlining of having maybe some kind of template farm worker housing, so that it's easier for some of those smaller farmers to just grab and go, really, right? And so they don't need to come up with with any new designs, the designs will be there for them. But aside from that, you know, we have some opportunity for our county council to be able to coordinate with LAFCO professional staff on some of these items. And so I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to be able to do that. And so it's important for me to have our county council be on the same page as the LAFCO and you know, LAFCO's council, and so that there's a review of the policies and so that there's this real interaction between them. And so I'm hoping that, one, I can make a motion to approve the report, obviously, you know, we're accepting the public comments, and we know what we are going to receive those from our professional staff in a form of a summary. We're going to review them once again at our ad hoc committee. But I also wanted to direct LAFCO staff to work with our county councils on reviewing the proposed LAFCO agriculture and worker housing policies so that we can coordinate on the work plan efforts. And so I'm hoping that I could make that motion and get a second so that we can move forward.
Second.
Thank you.
Could I have clarification on what that entails so that I know the direction of the commission?
Sure. So some of these policies that are impacting specifically, like say the out-of-agency contract for services policy item, that you would be working with our county council to ensure that these policies are not, and it's part of what I said earlier, is like we're not creating a policy that's going to hinder another or create a bump in the road for another priority that is important not only to the commissioners but to the board of supervisors. And so in order for those two priorities to align, I think our county council needs to make sure, and you as a council for LAFCO need to be able to connect and talk about these policies. Is all I'm asking you to do, is to coordinate at that level.
Thank you.
And so we have a motion and a second. I'll take just a little bit of prerogative to chime in with a couple of thoughts here. I would love to hear from county council, who I don't think has just yet had a chance to maybe get across the finish line on preparing some formal comments on the draft policies that we have in front of us. So when county council is ready for that, whatever the deadline is that was written down, we would waive the deadline, because working with the county, who is moving forward, as we were discussing, is so important that I would very much welcome the opportunity for any sort of feedback or collaboration opportunities. And then, of course, the nature of the composition of the board of LAFCOs across the state, and including here in Santa Clara, LAFCO is 2 members of the County Board of Supervisors on staff. So there is also ample representation in that regard. So thank you for letting me take the prerogative to mention that. And then Commissioner Kamei, I see your light is on.
Yes. So I guess I am not clear as to the direction, because we have legal representation, and if in fact we think that it's valuable to have county council take a look at it, I think it's also important to have other councils look at it as well. I mean, I think this is important enough where we will all be affected by it. I know that our city attorney would be happy to be able to, not that she needs another thing, but you know, it's important enough to be able to not just have it for the county, but for the other cities as well, to at least give them an opportunity. So I would ask for a friendly amendment to extend that to others. I mean, we could send it to them directly and say, this came up in our LAFCO meeting, and commissioners would like their professional input or whatever it is. And I think that, and it's important enough. I mean, I think that after a year of working on it, we should not be sort of rushed and say, oh, we're going to approve it in December if it's not ready for that, right? And so I would ask if we could just add, it being available to other cities as well as special districts. I mean, I think that there's tremendous interest in this, and of course, a lot is changing, right? So I don't know if the maker of the motion would accept that.
Sure. I wanted just to make sure that I hear you correctly. Is it to do with farm worker housing or the policies in general?
Well, I think that you directed it to farm worker housing. Is that correct?
Right.
I mean, yeah.
But
And for the cities especially who would be affected by it, I think it would be helpful for them to also give greater input.
On what?
On the farm worker housing.
I guess I'm confused. For what purpose?
Well, I would think that if you are in the rural areas, that might be something that you would want to know more clearly about.
You know what? I didn't think about that because the policy sits with the county and not with each of the cities in terms of a priority, and I don't know that they actually have a priority, but I think it would be a great idea to invite them just to see if that's something that falls within their capacity to review and to give feedback. Although I think that we should be very careful what we're asking for, right? Because then we are going to get some feedback, and I mean, I would like to just keep it to the county because we actually have that priority and we have work that we are going to enact in that capacity. For example, the city of San Jose wouldn't have no real business with farm worker housing because you don't have farms within your city limits that are active, and that would probably be building 150 densified buildings, right? I just don't know that there's any real possibilities because most of what is going to get built will be on county land.
I totally agree, but there are some areas that perhaps we're not, I mean, we've established Coyote Valley, but if you were to open this up and say, oh, we're going to have farm worker housing over here and have that possibility, yes, it would be sort of in the unincorporated area or urban service, it would be in sort of the edges, but I guess I'm afraid of unintended consequences, and it just to be more inclusive of others, and you may get something back saying, hey, we have no comments, that's not our realm.
Yeah.
But given the opportunity, I think it's always better to invite than to say, oh, this is only us. So it's just that's
I did learn a lesson in inviting people to support, and then
Oh,
all of a
okay.
sudden I got
Well,
I got
I'm hoping
a
that
slew of revisions.
I think that I can see how that can happen, but I'm trying to be a little bit more.
It happened twice from the city of San Jose. Not that you did it directly, but that we had to deal with, and so. But I'm open to your friendly amendment. I don't know that the commission will have to accept any of those.
That's right.
We can.
You got that. Yeah.
We can decline, but I think maybe just getting that kind of mindset going for some of those cities that will be impacted, I think is fine. It's not to say that those cities will dictate what the commission will have in order, what they will be able to do. because what we're looking for is collaboration and partnership, right, for those services. And so anyways, yeah, I'll go ahead and accept your friendly amendment.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the dialogue. Before we get to Commissioner Trumbull, who was the seconder of the original motion, Commissioner Kamei, I perceive that the friendly amendment was of the lines of provide an opportunity for the San Jose City Attorney with regards to farm worker housing to provide input on the draft document.
Yeah, it would be more others, right? Because those in our Santa Clara County area, and you may get nothing, right? I mean, I think that it may be the case where we say, hey, special district, give us your thoughts on the farm worker housing or whatever, and you may get nothing, right? Gilroy may give you nothing. San Martin will give you nothing. I mean, I don't know, but I'm just trying to be a little bit more inclusive. It isn't just the city of San Jose may say, oh yeah, that's not our realm. We have no comments.
Thank you for that. And I find myself thinking about guardrails and scope.
Be specific.
And I also find myself thinking, right, you and I are both city representatives. I probably just, for my own city, I would probably not bring this back to the Sunnyvale city attorney, right, sort of out of, very likely to be no comment from Sunnyvale city attorney. So I have an idea, which is if we could limit the scope of your friendly amendment to the specific city attorney's office, which would be City of San Jose, and then limit the scope to be specifically with regard to farm worker housing. That would be the friendly amendment. And then I would love to hear other friendly amendments that I sense might be forthcoming from Commissioner Kishimoto or from Commissioner Chapman, which would say, we would also like this special agency specifically to look at the same thing. And in that way, Commissioner Kamei, we end up with a very specified list of San Jose and Agency A and Agency B as those three specified parties, and then the particular topic is farm worker housing. So if I could get you to agree on the scope of the friendly amendment, and then we'll see if we want to insert other friendlies.
Through the chair, can I
Thank you.
share something? Because there is some work that is being done through our legislative division, and that's going to also involve our county executive, our deputy county executive, Sylvia Gallegos, and this is an MOU between the city of San Jose and the county on some of the issues that have already been discussed, that we wanted to make sure that we were being sensitive to and responsive. So there's already been a review around farm worker housing, specifically that particular bill. So I don't know if you want to already fall back to that. I don't know if you want to invite this whole conversation all over again, because it's already been had between the city of San Jose and the county. There were revisions actually were made to the bill based on the city of San Jose's feedback. And there were some remaining items, and those items are going to be identified through an MOU. So I don't know if that addresses those issues that you were thinking about. I really don't want to resurrect the conversation because I think we've already had it. But I don't know that that the issues really were coming from the council rather than the planning department. I'm sorry, the city attorney. Like they weren't being identified by the city attorney. They were being identified by the planning department. But either way, I mean, I think if we are very specific, I like that idea about being very, very specific. We already have a, like I said, we already had this provision discussed, and I don't know if you feel comfortable falling back to what we've already agreed to.
So I was not privy to these discussions, so maybe they have, and I would
they
say, I would say that, hey, if they've already had these discussions, everything's okay, and they send something back saying, hey, we've already had these discussions, and end of discussion, right? So my intent was to be more inclusive, right? And not, sort of, yes, I guess that's all I would say. I'd like to hear from the other commissioners, but I think, I'm fine with it. I don't mind being narrow. My intent is to be as broad and inclusive as possible. Yes, sometimes you get, more than you ask for, but I think that if, no one can say that they've been excluded. So that's just the way I operate. So I don't mind the narrowness. I don't mind you, like saying, okay, only a handful, which is fine. But my intent really is to be broader.
Thank
So
you,
I would
Commissioner.
love to hear what that specific scope would be.
I'll take a shot at that and partner with Commissioner Kamei to what I think I'm hearing is that specifically the friendly amendment, subject to concurrence from the vice chair and the original seconder of the motion, Commissioner Trumbull, would be provide an opportunity for the San Jose City Attorney to opine on the draft policies as pertains specifically to farm worker housing.
And if they've already done it, that's all they need to say. I was not privy to any discussions. And I think it's great, but, I just,
Thank you. And I do believe everybody is bought off on the concept of inclusivity vis-a-vis the public comment period. Vice Chair Arenas, do you accept the friendly amendment?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and accept that.
Thank you. Commissioner Trumbull is the seconder. Do you accept the friendly amendment?
If I can make some other comments.
Just to keep an orderly process, if you could give your
I
rendering.
do
Thank you.
approve
So-
of the motion.
Thank you. So we have a friendly amendment that has been accepted by the maker of the motion and the seconder. And then Commissioner Trumbull, what's on your mind?
I just want to remind all of us that we're going to be producing a report with staff in the committee. And I think one way that we could go that, as a commission, I don't think we'd agree on, is just turn it over to all the cities and special districts for comment. But I do think that it's desirable to go out of our way to invite comment, but not slow down discussions between the county and LAFCO, its attorneys. So I think we ought to attempt to resolve between those two groups and then trot it out with spots like San Jose City Attorney and the two special open space districts council.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Trumbull. And recognizing that we have in fact received through our public comment process letters from the city of Gilroy and the city of Morgan Hill, which I presume went through some internal process that involved their offices of city attorney. Well, clearly that's 2 out of 15, and maybe 3 if we understand or internalize the dialogue about San Jose at least being forthcoming. So thank you for concurring with the friendly amendment, Commissioner Trumbull. Anything else on your mind before we move on? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Kishimoto, you're next, and then Commissioner Chapman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I wonder if I could start with just a clarification to Commissioner Rentz. Is that okay? Which is part of your concern about making the keeping of the affordable housing mandatory? The discussion we had about.
Oh, no, I want it to be.
You want
I
you
want it
agree with
Oh, absolutely,
with
yes.
strengthening the wording about keeping.
Sure, in perpetuity.
Okay,
yes,
okay,
yes.
okay. That's
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Thank you for clarifying that. I just wanted to say that. There's two different issues. I guess one is the whole out of agency service contract issue, which And you heard from two of the public commenters were from resource conservation districts who, they're not talking about affordable housing. They're talking about, how they can make their own lives easier by, sometimes they collaborate across agencies, and does that mean they have to ask permission every time they do that? So that kind of concern needs to be addressed. And so possibly, hopefully there'll be another special districts association where we can go and, make sure that we're understanding the concerns there. And then and then also, just to note, as I said earlier, that there has been a huge amount of discussion at other LAFCOs and at the state level about this out-of-state, out-of-agency service contracts. And so it's not a simple issue. It's and the trade-off is between building these strong guardrails so that we don't allow kind of growth-inducing infrastructure to go in. On the other hand, not making it so onerous that it's we either discourage affordable housing or we discourage hardworking resource conservation districts from doing collaborative work or good work. So I wanted to say that those two are related for sure. So I don't know whether we need to add to the motion that we consult with a special district association again especially about the I would think it's be more about the out of OASC, out of agency service contracts. So it could be adding requesting a friendly amendment to direct the staff to go back and consult with the special districts, since we had those two speakers today.
Okay. So thank you, Commissioner Kishimoto. Quite specifically, I wanted to say for verbalizing the tension that exists in policy about growth and preservation, if that can be simply stated like that. And then we have a friendly amendment to the motion that already has one friendly amendment to it that would be with regard specifically to out-of-agency service contracts, that we give another check-in with the Special Districts Association for any thoughts or comments that they might have.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So that's the friendly amendment. Vice Chair Arenas, and I'll be looking at Commissioner Trumbull in a second here. Any thoughts on the friendly amendment?
Yes, I'm not sure what we're going to hear from the special districts that we haven't heard already today or in letter form.
Well, it would be just a chance for them to ask our staff questions and understand those trade-offs. So it would be the language. So as you heard, they took the trouble to come and speak today, and there's 17 special districts, and so it's I think it's worth touching base with them. I mean, I believe Nilima goes to them almost every single meeting anyway, so it's.
Is that?
The Special Districts Association holds quarterly meetings, so they meet every 3 months, and I do attend those meetings.
Is one of those meetings coming up before we meet next?
There could be one meeting in December. I can look it up. It's December 9th. Yeah, I'm seeing alternate Commissioner Chapman say it's December 9th, which would be after the LAFCO scheduled meeting on December 4th.
Okay, so I think just so that it doesn't create another meeting that Nilima has to bring in 17 different special districts to do, that maybe what we could, as a commission agree to meet after you have a chance to meet with the special districts quarterly meeting. Does that work?
We would have to change our meeting schedule and
Well,
locate a meeting room, which is,
Okay, so either you're going to do it on your own, or, I'm just trying to facilitate the meeting, but, facilitate that for you for the special districts conversation, but I know that's logistical, and I can just include it in the motion, and then we can figure out on the back end how that happens.
is it possible to, again, send this to the special districts and request one more time input from them as opposed to attending their meeting? Because we've done 2 meetings with the Special Districts Association.
Right, right. I would think so, especially since I did also request that the committee, our subcommittee, think about refining the procedures and such. So maybe after the committee comes up with any amendments or changes, then we send that back to see if they have any comments.
So let's bring it back to the commission, and I appreciate hearing from staff on this
Okay.
important topic. It does resonate with me, maybe building in some flexibility to the friendly amendment, that instead of having it a mandatory check-in at a noticed meeting of the SDA, that it's more offline-ish, right? That, we provide some direction to professional staff to do one more check-in with the executive officer of the SDA for any final thoughts or comments. And Commissioner Kishimoto, does that sound like an okay way to say your friendly amendment?
Yes, I can accept a more informal way, but yes, as I said, it would be great if it's done after any changes are made, and then you send the new draft back and see and ask.
Let's put in the phraseology of best efforts, right?
Okay.
To make all of that happen as prescribed, and we will make our best efforts. And so you might be sensing that I'm sort of trying my utmost to maintain that December 4th thing. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Well, I don't know if it's best efforts, but yes, in some way.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So we have a friendly amendment, and then Vice Chair Arenas and Commissioner Trumbull, I'll be looking at you next.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was just the back and forth on that.
Oh, do you
friendly
accept the
motion.
friendly amendment?
Oh, yes, I accept a friendly amendment with
Thank you.
that level of flexibility, yes.
Very good. Commissioner Trumbull?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner Kishimoto. I appreciate your flexibility on all of this as we navigate furiously to the finish line. Commissioner Chapman, what's on your mind?
Thank you. I appreciate the navigation, Chair, as I am the Vice Chair of the Special Districts.
Oh, we should just.
I'm like. So I was looking at the dates and went, this isn't gonna, yeah. I think we want to make sure that we stay on target with the, with the ad hoc policy committee work, the final report coming by the end of the year to the LAFCO committee, as well as making sure the special districts. I mean, I think last time we accomplished it with a Zoom meeting, which, it was about an hour long, and if necessary, I like the idea of, once the ad hoc committee takes a look at it, make some language changes, making sure, that it's solicited and that they have appropriate feedback, and we could probably do that in a quick hour special meeting, which we have to coordinate through the water district, so there was a little bit of, yeah. But I really appreciate the dialogue. That's great. So I have a point of clarification, because I think I heard it touched on, and I just want to make sure, as I am director on the Open Space Authority, are you including the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority? Yes, I'm seeing a nod. So our legal counsel to weigh in on the farm worker. Yes?
Oh, for the special districts?
Yes.
I heard that as being specifically with out-of-agency service contracts, which is a different animal than
Okay.
farm worker housing.
Not on the farm worker housing, just on the out-of-agency contracts?
Yes.
Okay, all right. That was more of a clarification point, just so I know what to bring back.
Thank you for the clarification. Okay, it looks like we're kind of getting close to taking a vote on this. I just wanted to give a shot here at maybe putting a bow on what the motion is before the LAFCO as we head into a vote. The staff recommendation when we started this agenda item would be recommended action A, receive the presentation. Mission accomplished. Part B, accept public comments. Mission accomplished. And then we heard a motion with some direction to staff. The original motion from Vice Chair Arenas was, let's make sure that County Council has their opportunity to opine on the entirety of the LAFCO policies. And I guess what I've heard is that they're close to providing their formal comments, and so we welcome that whenever County Council is able to do that. If Sylvia Gallegos happens to be listening, I would say, as soon as that can happen, it would be most excellent. So we're all cheering on County Council. Then we had a friendly amendment from Commissioner Kamei with regards to specifically reaching out to San Jose City Council with regard, City Attorney, thank you, with regards to farm worker housing, and then a friendly amendment from Commissioner Kishimoto with regards to Special Districts Association as pertains to out-of-agency service contracts. And that was all discussed. Any final thoughts or comments? I'm also going to just give a quick look over to professional staff to make sure everybody's tracking where we are before I call for a vote. And seeing no comments then, let's go ahead and do a roll call vote, please, Sonia.
Okay. Commissioner Arenas,
Yes.
alternate Commissioner Chapman,
Yes.
Commissioner Kamei,
Yes.
Commissioner Kishimoto,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Trumbull,
Yes.
and Commissioner Melton.
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right, motion carries unanimously. We're in the home stretch here, colleagues. We're going to move on to agenda items 6 and 7. We're part of the consent agenda. That brings us to item 8, commissioner reports. I'm going to scan for any microphone lights turned on. Seeing none, we're going to move on to agenda item number 9, newspaper articles and newsletters. I see here we do not have any action required on this item. Item number 10, written correspondence. Again, scanning for lights turned on, and I have written here, no action required on this item. That brings us to adjournment, agenda item number 11. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, professional staff, and everybody who spoke today. We're ready to adjourn this meeting with the next one being December 4th, 2024, right here at 1:15 p.m., and this meeting is adjourned at 3:11 p.m. Thank you.